Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the live stream today. And we're going to talk about these mass fires, the largest wildfire in US history in California. Now, I'm not going to talk about all the normal mainstream media stuff because you know what I do here on this channel. I don't get into all of that because I want to get into the nitty gritty, the stuff that they don't cover, such as usually the truth behind a lot of the lies. So that's what we're going to do today. I've got to say, this video might not be 100% fluid all the way throughout. I've spent 11 hours. I think this is one of the deepest ones I've researched in a long time. The information is so vast that it took me down all sorts of rabbit holes, but I've managed to get it focused on what you need to know here. So I'm going to consolidate everything. We are going to talk about everything from arson, insurance companies, vax mandates with the shortage of firefighters, funding cuts that happened just recently, funny enough, insurance companies pulling policies just recently. There's even mass lootings we'll talk about going on, through to a little fish called a smelt, which is also causing a lot of controversy and fire hydrants not having water in them. There's all sorts of things going on. So I'm going to get into all of this. I'll go through as quickly but as efficiently as I possibly can. So here's the first thing then. No surprise, a lot of these fires, or at least a couple of these fires, were caused by arson. And it was interesting because when I started doing a search for this, guess what the first thing was that actually came up? It said misinformation around arson, that these fires were started by arson. That's the first thing. All these, every search was misinformation and people spreading rumors and whatever. No, it's a fact. There are videos, there are the police chief saying that a man has been arrested for it was witnessed. He was causing these fires. He had a miniature flamethrower. Okay, so firstly we're gonna have to cut through all of this nonsense because there's tons of nonsense. Half of it is all talking about climate change when that's got absolutely nothing to do with that, unless you look at it from the flip side, which is the bad forestry management. We've talked about this before. Why do they not clear the forests anymore in California like they do pretty much everywhere else around the world? Carbon. Yes, they say that the forests need to be natural. And believe it or not, people actually voted on this, that people actually want the forest to be left naturally. Well, now you're seeing the result of it. What do you think happens when the fire comes through? It's got tons of material. And I want to hear from firefighters or anyone who's worked in the fire service on this stream as well. Drop your comments below. I want to hear, because you will know better than anyone. So what's happening? There's tons and tons of material just building up because they want the forest to be natural, and then it's making it even worse. But there's a lot of suspicious stuff around this as well. There just happens to be the perfect storm at the moment. You have these winds, 100-mile-per-hour winds, which is what, 160 kilometers thereabout winds, which are just pushing this fire all over. And I've received actually tons and tons of messages about this. People talking about everything from, lasers through to, all sorts of stuff. I actually don't think that I'm not going to go into all of that side of things because I'm just going to focus on all the stuff that is very, very obvious here. Very, very obvious indeed. So here we go then. Firstly, the media is focusing on climate change. They're saying this is due to climate change. Not really. If someone sets a fire during a massive windstorm and everything's really dry, you're going to get a massive fire. So this is what they keep talking about. The area hasn't actually had any substantial rain since last spring, and an extreme Santa Ana wind event is making this fire a lot worse. Also, I was looking at the odds on this. As always, I look at the odds and I try and calculate the statistics. The odds of this actually occurring naturally at this time are quite small, actually. But again, when you start looking at all these scenarios that keep happening over and over again, you see these very long odds, and they keep happening. Sometimes it's very, very suspicious indeed. Now, the mayor actually just cut funding for the fire department by $17.6 million just months ago. This happened. It was supposed to be $23 million. And if you look into all of that as well, they say that they had to raise a lot more money for the homeless population, for drugs, and all these other diversity, equitable, all this sort of stuff, policies that they were pushing through. So they needed a lot more funding there, and there just wasn't enough funding. So in other words, they cut all of this money here and then pushed it over here. And now we find out that one of the arsonists was actually part of that community. Talk about shooting yourself in the foot, or incompetence, or even worse, actually. I was just looking as well at some of the things they've been spending this money on. It equates to $300,000 per homeless person with this new property project that they've built. I mean, the money here is unbelievable. You wouldn't believe. And this is another thing the media has said then. They said, and I quote, "There is no better fire chief to be placed in this position right now due to her equitable background." Now, firstly, what has that got to do with anything, you may ask? I asked the same question. What has her equitable background got to do with this? Why do they keep focusing? So, Kristen M. Crowley, 19th Fire Chief of the LA Department, LAFD, with her wife and children by her side. Again, what has that got to do with anything? I'm not sure. They said that her biggest accolade, her first female and LGBTQ fire chief in the LAFD. I mean, I read through this. I don't really understand what this has got to do with anything. And then we move on to the mayor, Karen Bass, who is absolutely, I've got to show you this video in a second. And they're talking about her. I'll get into this later in the article, in the video as well. It says this: "We are moving our city in a new direction." Well, that's one way to describe what's happening to the city at the moment, I suppose. "Together, we are urgently housing people." Really, I would say it's quite the opposite with the amount of houses destroyed, making our city safer and more livable. I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up. It's the complete opposite. "As your mayor, I will never stop working for you." Yeah, apart from the fact that she went on this trip during these fires, she's being blasted for this. "I'll continue working with you to make sure our agenda and our administration truly reflects the full diversity and will of the people of LA. We are locking arms and we're getting big things done." I mean, it's so weird, all this stuff. So this is when she finally returned.
Owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today?
I swear some of these people are robots. I really do.
Nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster?
This is so weird. I mean, is she frozen, buffering? I don't know.
Do you think you should have been visiting Ghana while this was unfolding back home?
Drop in the comments. What do you think to this? What do you think's going on here? That is the weirdest. I don't even know how to describe that. How strange. How strange that is. Let me carry on with my notes here then. So a lot of people criticize her. We have a mayor who seems to be more concerned about being in a party in Ghana than dealing with this. But the media said that the criticisms of her going to a party in Ghana, I mean, firstly, the comment, bizarre, say that it's harsh and unfair because we must remember that she, I quote here, by I'm reading the direct quote, "We must remember that she was sworn in as mayor in December 2022 and is the first woman mayor of Los Angeles." Again, what has that got to do with anything? I don't know. It then goes on to say, and again I quote, that she emerged as a contender for vice president before Biden ultimately selected Kamala Harris. In 2024, she was invited to speak at the Democratic National Convention. Again, I have no idea what any of this has got to do. Why the media is just focusing on the weirdest thing. It's like mind control, trying to fool people. I mean, they're trying to say, look at all these achievements. Don't look at what's actually happening. Just look at all of these achievements. I can't really see any. I can't really see any achievements so far. But you'll be pleased to know, though, that Gavin Newsom's wineries, his vineyards, are doing just great. This popped up as I was looking through. He owns these vineyards, and when we get onto the water, you'll see why. So his vineyards are just fine. So anyone worried about his vineyards, don't worry at all. There was plenty of water for his vineyards. You'll be glad to hear. By the way, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. We've got a lot to talk about here. Let's continue on then. Officials are investigating how these fires commence, but low humidity, drought conditions, and winds that reached up to 100 miles per hour are making it difficult to actually find out. Again, if you're a fire person, please let me know if that is. I mean, I'm guessing the main focus right now will be on actually getting these fires out. They can do the investigations later, but I did see a lot of comments saying, "How can a fire get from here to 7 miles away?" This is a big one that's going around. Fires can actually spread long distances. They can. I was reading all these. I won't bore you with it all. I was reading all these documents and I was watching videos on how they can actually spread. I've been educated myself on how some of these fires can spread a lot further than you would think. So it is possible. But I'm still sticking with a lot of the arson things. Also, for context, in 2024, California recorded over 8,000 wildfires with over 1 million acres burned and 1,700 structures destroyed. So actually, one thing we'll get into later, I've got all the data for you. We'll see the patterns that these fires have gotten worse in the last few years. And of course, they're blaming climate change, but actually it's not. When you look at it and we go through all the fire hydrants, we go through the water levels and the smelt fish with the water being diverted to the ocean, you'll actually see what the truth is here. But then we had the actor James Wood. He's revealed all of these alarming stories about insurance companies pulling all their policies just recently and not giving policies out. If that, whether that's a coincidence or whether it's due to all these new measures that they have seen, because it's their job, they'll have people that analyze all this stuff. It's hard to say. A lot of people ask me to look into that. But the Kenneth fire was intentionally set. It's been confirmed as the police chief as arson, but it wasn't the police that actually arrested him. Funny enough, it was a mother. A mum came out. She saw him with a blowtorch setting this fire. So she basically just jumped on him and restrained him. And then they tied him up with rope and zip ties. Now, the video I was going to show you was unavailable, funny enough. Why? I'm not sure. And it's not on X yet. But there is a video of him. And I think I've got an image for you, if I can find it in a second. Yeah, I'll grab it for you in a second because I just got to find that image. But there's an image of him. The police said they cannot release his information for safety reasons, but he's already been identified. I'm not sure which news outlet it was that did it, but they've identified him as a man. They said his first language is Spanish. He doesn't really speak any English, and they're not sure if he was on drugs or something like that. So again, you're looking at the same situation. All of these people who have come into California, whatever I know some people have got mental health issues, some people have got drug addictions, etc. And California is an easy place to live. But you look at some of the fires, and I did research again for you. I went back to, well, this is a prime example, 2021. Pacific Palisades fire was an act of arson. He was a 48-year-old homeless man named Ramon Santos Rodriguez. He was charged in connection with starting the fire. This began on May 14th, 2021. It burned 1,200 acres. Now, let me tell you where this gets really weird, okay? Rodriguez, I'm not good with these Spanish names, was charged with one felony count each of arson. Okay. LA City Councilman commented on the broader issue, stating, "Our homelessness crisis is destroying neighborhoods and endangering the lives of the housed and unhoused." Exactly what I was thinking. They've allowed all these people to come in and now they're burning down. So it looks as though 3 of these fires, if again, we don't know for a fact, but if the media reporting is correct, 3 of these fires were created by either people who were homeless or on drugs. So this is where it gets really weird, and check this for yourself if you don't believe me. Normally, when someone commits a crime where it's quite heavy in the media, what do you get? You get media afterwards, "Oh, he was sentenced to this, oh, justice has been served." You can look this up. Regarding the sentencings of Ramon Santos Rodriguez for the 2021 Palisades fire, he was charged with one felony count of arson of structure of a forest. However, despite numerous requests, including from CBS News, his sentence has not been disclosed to the public and we don't know his whereabouts. What? Do you not find that really, really strange? Was that some sort of a cover-up? What exactly is going on there? I don't know. I really did spend about 45 minutes trying to find... I couldn't find anything on this guy. He seems to have just vanished. So there's one for you to look into. The destruction cost then is looking like over $50 billion, and it's saying a lot of homeowners are not insured. They're trying to find out from the federal government if there's going to be support for people's houses who are not insured, and so far it looks like there isn't a budget for this. Even FEMA saying they haven't really got much of a budget at the moment. Well, why do they keep sending all of these billions overseas? It's the same everywhere. You know this. I've talked about it, about the UK, EU, etc. No money for citizens, people who actually pay the taxes, but all these billions keep going overseas. And then when there's disasters, there's no money. It's like there's no money for the people who live there. But you accept what you vote for, although I'll say that very loosely, because even, sometimes when you vote for things, you know, so there's a lot more factors here. What's this one? Glyphosate is drying up the ground from overspraying. They've been sucking water from the underground water table for a long time. Newsom didn't call for help from neighboring states. Why? We don't really know. He waited very long time to then call for help, and then he asked for the National Guard. However, he actually asked for the National Guard because there was so much gangs and lootings. And I saw this video. Let me see if I can just show you this here. I won't play it because it's not a very good video. But I'll just show you it so you can actually see it. So this lady here, she's been interviewed, and in fact, you might be able to hear it. Hold on, let me see if I can.
My next door neighbor said, his quote, "There were like 100 people that came up on scooters and were trying to get into any and all houses on the street."
And did you physically see police officers stopping them?
I didn't, but it's not to say that they weren't. It was so incredibly chaotic, and I was so worried about my big family and getting them out of our old tinderbox of a house that I was just focused on.
Yeah. So there was basically just massive lootings going on. I mean, I don't know. So let's have a look then. I was looking at some of the previous fires. Sorry, actually, we'll go to the previous fires later. This is the current state as of so Thursday night. So what will that be in America right now? It's sort of Friday morning your time. So Palisades fire, almost 20,000 acres, only 6% contained. Eaton Fire, 13,690 acres, 0% contain. They're just too big to contain. I was speaking to my friend about this, who's a firefighter. Actually, some of you know him anyway. Just too big of an area. They can't contain it. The wind is too strong. The fires are burning too hot. Hearst Fire, they're starting to contain this, and the Kenneth Fire and the Lydia Fire. But this is how many are actually going on. And I don't know if you ever saw this clip. It was quite interesting. But I remember he was talking about, Trump was talking about these fires.
They said, we have no water. I said, do you have a drought? No, we don't have a drought. I said, why don't you have no water? Because the water isn't allowed to flow down. It's got a natural flow from Canada all the way up north. Water, more water than they could ever use. And in order to protect a tiny little fish, the water up north gets routed into the Pacific Ocean. Millions and millions of gallons of water gets poured. I could have water for all of that land, water for your forests. You know, your forests are dry as a bone.
Yeah.
Okay?
Dangerous.
That water could be routed. You know, you could have everything. Oh, not only dangerous, billions of dollars a year they spend on forest fires. And, you know, there's a case with the environment.
That's actually a really good point. So, have I got that picture of that fish? Here it is. Here's the fish, by the way, that they're protecting, the smelt. So this is the issue that is, they're saying is causing a lot of these water problems, is this fish that they are protecting, this smelt fish. But yeah, I actually remember the last time I was in California, and I actually made a video on this. I think I showed you some of it, and it was the orange plantations. And I was on the train. Won't take the train again. That's another story. And it was just all these orange plantations, as far as the eye could see, dead. And I was asking my wife and other people, what's going on here? They said there's just not enough water. And I was just so confused by that, because there's tons and tons, millions of gallons of water that flows south. So it doesn't really make any sense. But I think some of you, please drop in the comments. You'll know a lot more about this. Let's continue on then. This was another. I've got a few more for you to see here.
Laura, with all due respect, if it is true that things were handled this way, if it is true that Gavin Newsom is the absolute blithering idiot that I believe he is in the way he has handled fire management in this state again and again and again and again, this isn't a wake-up call. This is the kind of thing they have tribunals for, where they try people and say, you had an oath of office to perform certain duties. When you're the fire chief, this isn't a social justice exercise that you're in charge of. This is you getting water to areas that need water because there are fires in 100-mile-an-hour winds burning houses to the ground. I watched on a Ring camera.
Okay, so I mean, obviously people are very, very, very upset about this. They really are. But there's a lot more I want to talk about. I wanted to get onto as well one moment here. As I said, this is one of the most complicated videos I've had to research and try and explain to you, because there's so much information everywhere. There was also, okay, here's the claim about, okay, the water table. So a lot of the firefighters were saying there just isn't any water. They're trying to turn on the hydrants. There's no water and there's no pressure. So what did the media do? They responded to that again, saying that the hydrants aren't designed for this amount of fires. But again, you look at, and I was listening to the LAFD, he was the previous fire department chief, and he said that's just not true. You can actually listen to his interview. He said that since 2000, I'll quote what he said, since 2014, the mayor was told that the water tanks in the mountains needed to be filled up. Otherwise, there wouldn't be enough water pressure to put out a larger fire when there's more draw on the hydrants. And in the last decade, despite numerous requests, no one in office took care of it, even though they knew the risk. So that is, I think, more accurate than what the media is saying, is that there just isn't water. That there's there's just not enough water for this amount of fires. Well, there should be if these tanks, according to what he was saying, are filled up. 2 years of record rainfall in the LA area, and they're saying that they weren't able to capture any of it. This is according to the fire chief again, because the infrastructure projects were blocked so that funding could go to other more important projects. Again, we already know about these projects, so they diverted all this water to the ocean because they couldn't store it all. We talked about the people who have been arrested. Joe Biden made a statement claiming the devastating wildfires were caused by human-caused climate change. Now, here's another point. There's no possible way that he can know what the cause was. Yeah, he'll have his advisors and he'll be getting information, but there's no possible way he can know that. And now we've got it confirmed that some of the fires were caused by arson. So, and again, that is a fact. I know people are going to say, oh, all the other stuff, but that's a fact. It's actually, we have the statement by the police departments. Okay, was there any more? Yeah, actually, okay, I've got the image here of, okay, I have got it here. Okay, so this is out of The Independent then. According to a witness, the man is believed to be in his mid-20s and speaks Spanish as his first language. So this was the arrest. They tied him up, as you can see there, with rope and cable ties. Okay, CBS News, this was the 2021. We talked about okay, people wanted me to talk about the Smart LA 2028 plan. I've looked into that. I'm not convinced that that is to do with this. I did read through it. A lot of people think it's sort of trying to destroy all the housing for this 2028 plan. The 2028 plan is not around that. I think that's more around sort of what Agenda 21 was. At the start, when, if you remember that a long time ago, which is now the Agenda 2030 for a more equitable future under the WEF and United Nations, etc. I think that's more what the focus is around that. And yeah, I mean, it's all very, very suspicious. So I do understand why people are so suspicious about these fires and how it's the sort of perfect storm. There was no water. People were out of town. There was a shortage of firefighters. There was all this stuff. It was, it's like the perfect events all happening at the same time. And as a result, you've got people dead. You've got people's houses burned to the ground. I mean, it's absolutely terrible. It's just the most terrible situation that that you can imagine. Truly, my heart and prayers go out to everyone affected. But thank you so much for being online. Really appreciate it. Take care. God bless you all, and I'll see you next time.